Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown for the week of June 4th, 2018. Almost in July. I caught myself, though. We start off this week with Blue Exorcist 100, SSCOO 40. Rin is back in the past, and we get to see a younger Mephisto who was waiting for him there, because time travel and Mephisto. And he takes the form of a dog so that he can, run around a little bit without being too conspicuous. We also get to see Yuri when she was younger and learn that the city was far more dangerous back then. We also get to see the cool, Yuri moments with Oku and Obaba and just this group of homeless people, basically, that she is living with and has become a family. We also get to see that she's interacting with Rin's father. And I'm not talking about Shiro. You get these moments where you see Satan's flames just kind of burning some things to play with Rin. And when you have that moment later that the entire place that the homeless people were living in is burned down, you know who's at fault there. That seems pretty clear. The exorcists that come by blame the entire incident on a fire, but we know who started that fire. Regardless, we then get to see Shiro, and he's looking cool, and he's a lot more callous than I expected him to be. I mean, it makes sense, but definitely the Shiro that we know from the start of the series is very different from this Shiro. So, being a dad kind of changed things for him, and probably interacting with Yuri changed a lot of that as well. She calls him Yukio Toko, which, eventually Rin figures out is where Yukio's name came from. And we also find out that Shiro's not completely human either. We get to see the Exorcist come to take out Shiro, or take him to the asylum, and they take Yuri with them, obviously, because she can see the dog demon that they brought with them. And I like Shiro a lot. I think Yuri's okay. I'm not a huge fan of, I guess, how white this flashback is. I get the point it's supposed to be it's a lot of snow, but a lot of white that's really not easily distinguished between. And Shiro looks a lot like Rin. So when there's so much white in the background, there were times where I couldn't figure out if it was Shiro or if it was Rin, and only figured it out based on outfits. But there are also times where you just see the side of a face. And so it's it just feels like a little bit more inking would have made it a lot easier to make out. But, as we see at the end of the chapter, the asylum is much darker, and I understand why they went for as clear a white as they did, because it's in stark contrast to the black of the asylum at the end of the chapter, and the black outfits that the exorcists wear. So it makes sense, it just made things a little difficult in places. I suspect the official release of this chapter, when it comes to the volume release, will probably have a little bit more inking done to make things stand out a little bit more. But all told, I enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was pretty cool. I like Shiro, of course. I always liked Father Shiro, but I think that Oku and Obaba were really cool, and I'm kind of sad we won't see more of them. And Yuri's okay. I don't know what I expected from getting to see some moments of Rin's mom, but Yuri's fine. She's not egregious in any way, and I don't dislike her. She just also hasn't really done anything that makes me go, yeah, she's pretty cool. Because I don't know. We'll see. She'll probably get to do some cool stuff, though. I would assume she does anyway. After that, we have One Piece 906, Sacred Marijoa. We get to see a long staircase leading to a man-made forest and a vast castle, which, of course, the celestial dragons, the Tenryubito, live in. We also get to see coupling rods and the slave labor using the coupling rods on the moving sidewalk. And on this sidewalk, almost immediately, Fukuboshi's like, something doesn't feel right here. And he gets the family out of there, and they take a walk through the forest. And I really like that Fukuboshi is just like, I don't trust this. Because this is the kind of labor that the fishmen would have been put in all of the various slavery rings where they were forced to row ships or to pull ships. And that's exactly what's happening right now, is with, I'm assuming criminals pulling the sidewalk, but I don't know that for sure. We do see one guy who's basically just like, save me or kill me one. It's like, yeah, these guys probably do this all day long with no rest. I assume they probably get to take a break if nobody needs it, but I also assume that the Tenryubito would probably walk the sidewalk or have the sidewalk move anyway, just to be like, haha. Because, I mean, they're all kind of jerks. Also, Carlos sets his eyes on Shirahoshi, which is not great, because we already know how Carlos feels about Fishmen. Thank you, Sabaudi Archipelago. And I'm really hoping we get a moment where we get to see how badly that punch messed him up. We also get to see Vivi and Rebecca meet, which is really cool. And we also get to see a really great moment where Shirahoshi is just trying to tell these single young men that are approaching her that she's not interested and almost causes an international incident. And that's really funny. While Vivi and Rebecca are talking about Luffy, Shirahoshi joins them. And it's around this point that we get to see Vivi wishing that she could have been with the Straw Hat. She makes a comment that, like, hey, I guess in their continued journeys, they found another princess that needed to be saved, and another kingdom that needed to be saved. And then there's this moment where, for a second, I thought she was jealous before I realized, no, this is Vivi. She wouldn't be jealous that somebody else was saved by Luffy. She would instead have been wishing that she could have gone with them to save Rebecca. And, I think deep down, a lot of us also wish that Vivi could have gone with him. We understand why she didn't. But Vivi was with the crew for a while, and, I like Vivi. She's cool. The Luffy fan club only gets bigger as Sai shows up, which Leo is thrilled about. And then Dalton does. And, my man, King Dalton. Dalton, oh man, I love Dalton so much. Dalton is one of my favorite characters in all of One Piece. Specifically because of the way that he cares about the Drum Kingdom. And the actions that he takes in trying to protect the Drum Kingdom, and the way that his fights turn out. I just think Dalton's a really cool character, and getting to see him here as King Dalton is really cool. We also get to see Wapol. And King Wapol has a new country again, and a gold-digging queen who literally laughs, gold dig, 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 dig. It's really clear to me what her intentions are. And I love that Oda was not subtle about that at all. Man, we also get to see Doc Kureha, and Doc Kureha's doing really well, and Dalton chases Wapol off, while Wapol shouts about his revenge, and it's like, yeah, Wapol's basically toothless at this point. He might get to do some other stuff with other people, but there's not much he can do on his own. Then we hard cut, because, we have Dalton talking about how Luffy's the best, and Luffy's cool, and, everything, and then we hard cut to Doflamingo Don Quixote. And Doflamingo Don Quixote is deep undersea at the new Impel Down. Oh boy. Talking about the secret of Marijoa. We then get to see a figure going up a tower with multiple wanted posters in its hands before we see a giant straw hat. What does this mean? There are so many different things this could mean. My first thought, because the straw hat looks to be, damaged, it looks like a little cold, like it's been frozen, and it looks a little cold. Somebody should get a blanket from the straw hat. And it looks... stupid. It looks a little molded as well. Is this thing, super old? Does this have something to do with the prophecy that was talked about in Fishman Island? Where, Straw Hat Luffy would be the one to destroy Fishman Island? Is this a previous Straw Hat? Not Luffy, but someone else? And if so, who? I've seen some people talk about how this figure was Joy Boy, or this figure was an assassin, and they've made it into Marijoa to take somebody out, and that would explain why they have multiple wanted posters, and that maybe seeing the Straw Hat made them go up to the secret of Marijoa, but still, the secret of Marijoa is this Straw Hat. And, the Straw Hat is a symbol for Luffy, but it's not a symbol for One Piece. It was not a Gold Roger thing. It was a Shanks and Luffy thing. So what is the deal with this? Because my question is, are we going from this to find out why Shanks has a straw hat? I can see a lot of people going, oh man, there's much bigger legacy, there's time travel. I don't think it's any of that. Could be. Knowing Oda, it very well could be. But is this where we find out who inspired Shanks to wear a straw hat? Like, was this a giant that wore a straw hat that was maybe frozen? Or maybe this was like the first Marine or something. I don't know. I have no way to... Maybe the first Celestial Dragon wore a straw hat. I have no idea. But this giant... And it may not even be somebody super important. This might not be the secret of Marijoa. This might just be a remnant, like a leftover of like, hey, this was from previous like person. But I definitely want to find out. And I really honestly think that we'll see Shanks' backstory in this. I think we'll figure out where Shanks was inspired to put on the straw hat. Or, maybe this has nothing to do with Shanks or Luffy at all, and Shanks just likes wearing straw hats. I don't know! But I'm excited to find out, because this was a really cool plot twist. Although I did also think about Jaguar D. Saul, and had to go back and look and see what his hat was, and it was not a straw hat, it was a cowboy hat. But I just want to see my dad or she again. Can't blame me for that. After that, we have Food Wars 265, Soma and Megumi's Hot Springs Case Files, File 1, The Darkness Behind the Steam. We get to see Soma and Arena arguing, and Arena sends them to a Hot Springs Inn, which suddenly closed, and no one knows why. She says that it was a long-time supporter of Totsuki. Soma gets to have some fun, playing around with some stuff, and asking questions of the locals, but they find no clues. Aruto sets them up a room, and they have a pretty good meal. It was a little weird having a moment of, like, Soma and Megumi eat food. After all the tension of the previous arc, anytime food was involved, it was just a little weird to have, like, nobody important cooked this. It's food. And it kind of just knocked me back and made me just sit down in my chair and go, yeah. Food doesn't have to be like this is a world-ending conflict. Like, food can just be a meal in this series. And it was really, I didn't expect it to floor me the way that it did, but it definitely did. Then Megumi realizes that they might be sharing a room. It could be, a mistake that Arato made. Or it could just be that there was only one room open. I don't know. Either way, while all of this is happening, the second inn falls. And there's a really cool deal of how, there's a knife that looks like it might have blood on it. I'm calling it right now that it's definitely not blood, and they had a shokugeki, and the other chef, fainted. But I still think that's a really cool touch, because it's a sudden turn at the end of the chapter if you're not ready for it, and I thought that was really cool. After that, we have We Never Learned 65, X descends like wildfire at the festival beginning. They just start selling off udon. So Yuiga goes out to give out some coupons and walk around with a flag on his back, talking about the udon stand, which leads him to Takamoto, who is missing her costume. And she's very upset about it. She loves Full Pure, and she wants to, wear that costume. So Yuiga adds another flag to his back, and finds out that the costume was last seen on the roof, which leads him to Best Girl, Kurisu, who is in the Full Pure costume. That's much harder to say than I thought it would be. We flash back to her shimmying out the window to get to the roof, and then Yuiga just asks her to get undressed. He realizes he should have worded it better, but Kurisu's response, her look, is amazing. Of just killing intent. It's so good. Also, I love that Kurisu has now just become almost every chapter I have to be in costume. I find that really funny for some reason. When she tries to get out of the costume, it gets stuck. And we get to see this really cool moment where Kurisu is upset at the thought, not that she won't be able to get out of the costume, but at the thought that she is ruining the swim team's school festival, since she never got to go to hers. And it's this really powerful moment where Yuiga's like, alright, I gotta do whatever I can to help. And so, he has some kind of plan that we don't get to see, but I love that Yuiga's response to that is, I gotta take charge and do this. And there's a lot of ways this could end. We still have the whole festival fireworks thing, touching, holding hands, fall in love thing. But I just thought this was a really cool moment to stick into what was clearly mainly a comedy chapter up until this moment. Like Kurisu sliding out a window, finding out that Urika had actually fallen in love with Full Pure and really liked it after that run-in that they had at the shop. Everything to go with that. You still have the gag of, Ogata trying to get rid of all this udon that her dad made. And then to add in all this, you have Furuhashi panicking because she's realized that she's going to have to kiss somebody and she doesn't even know who. So she's searching for Kashima. And all of it comes to a head with this idea that Kurisu is afraid she's going to ruin the school festival for the swim team. And Yuiga's response of gotta do it. I don't know what he's doing, but he's gotta do it. And so he gets Ogata to deliver some udon, and we get to see her look out on the stage as something happens. What a cliffhanger. I want to know what Yuiga's plan was, but I guess we'll find out next week. Either way, I thought this was really cool. I loved that as soon as he heard that, he was spurred into action. Yuiga always is active anyway. He's an active main character, going about things and not just letting things passively rock him by. But his response to that was, well, gotta do it. And again, I don't know what it was that he's gotta do. I'm assuming maybe he had Kurisu go out, but Urika wanted to wear that, so I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Regardless, this was a fun chapter. After that, we get My Hero Academia 185, Wing Hero, Hawks! Man, I had no opinion on Hawks going into this, and I love Hawks now. I just want to point that out. We get to see Hawks encouraging Endeavor to stay quiet, while Ryuko bears her soul about the people she could not save, and how she's going to work hard for their sakes. Crest chimes in, and everybody else gets their moments to talk, and about how, they're so excited for the opportunity, and they're going to live up to the expectation. But Hawk finally unzips his mouth and tells them not to just keep giving canned answers. Then we get a little bit of information on Hawks, the young star hero, as they call him. He hands the mic to Endeavor, having said that, because he said his piece about how he wants to, basically how he wants to, be a hero who stands on his own. He doesn't want to just be giving these canned answers. He wants people to be able to look at what he does and be able to respect that, He doesn't word it that way, but that's what I got from it. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below if you disagree. But that's all overshined by him handing this mic to Endeavor, and Endeavor saying, just watch me. And it's such a cool line. Because Endeavor has always just been the jerk who's like, get out of the way, I'll do it myself. And now he's trying to be the new symbol of peace, but not the way All Might was, because he can't be the symbol of peace the way All Might was. He's instead becoming that roaring flame that will endeavor to show who he is to everyone, and just in its intensity will dwarf evil around him. And that's exactly what he needed to do. It's perfect for him. Just watch me. Oh man, that's so good. And even Hawks is like, man, that was cool. And then Hawks asks Endeavor about a team-up because of Nomu sightings. We then get to see a really long-necked Nomu, and it's like, okay, these things are coming back. I think we all kind of felt like they would at some point, and All Might struggle with one of these things, and had to go all power to be able to do it. This is not going to be an easy fight for our heroes, but I'm excited that they're coming. And I'm really excited for some Hawks Endeavor action. I think their team up would be really cool. Although Endeavor doesn't seem super hype about the team up. But, regardless. After that, we have the Promised Neverland 89, Convening. That man breaks Leuvis' mask. And we get to see the team just come in for the kill. Emma's on her way. Nigel's ready another shot. That man's getting ready with his rifle. Ray's getting ready with his rifle, and Pepe throws a grenade. And, Leuvis is immediately just like, it's just a grenade. But it's actually a flashbang hidden inside a grenade. So when the grenade opens, the flashbang goes off, and Leuvis is, stunned. But Leuvis is still Leuvis. And so even dizzy and only seeing white, he makes a grab for some glass from a broken window on the ground and throws it with deadly aim. Just remembering where everybody was a second ago. Just about everybody's able to get out of the way, except Pepe grunts as he does so, and Leuvis just goes at him. Just gets a good cut right up his shoulder, up his upper arm and torso. And it's amazing to me that Leuvis is able to do that. I mean, we knew how strong Leuvis was, but now we're getting to see it. And everybody always says, show don't tell. Absolutely. Seeing Leuvis in action is insane. This is like Bayon on steroids. And so then, as if all that wasn't good enough, Leuvis then deflects that man's shots. And is getting hype. Leuvis is loving this. He then takes his hands and smashes them into a building before crushing the building. All while being stunned and blinded. Palvis brings him his hat. And he, puts his hat back on. While asking Palvis, where are you? I still can't see well. And then says that he feels so alive! Oh, I want to see this part animated so badly. Because Leuvis is just going ham. And if he hadn't been stunned, if he hadn't been blinded, if he hadn't been dizzy, Pepe would just be dead. He wouldn't be in a room somewhere with the rest of the team as they try to come up with a new plan, half dead. He would be straight up dead, and Leuvis probably would have gone for Nigel as well. That man tries to pin Leuvis down and gets nowhere with him. Team all reconvenes and try to come up with a new plan. Because the old plan's not working, and Leuvis is a monster. I was so looking forward to this fight over the last series of chapters, and it's so much better than I thought it would be. Oh boy. After that, we have Kimi wo Shinryakuseyo 3, Childhood Friend. With this, we get introduced to Kase, the childhood friend clearly in love with Hajime. She also keeps a photo album of pictures where he does alien stuff, because when he was a kid on Earth, he didn't realize that humans couldn't do the stuff that he could do. Which only continues to contribute to the idea and theory that I have that Hajime is an idiot. Kase is also an idiot because she thinks it's just some kind of magic trick that he can do or something. We get to see that she finally decides she's going to tell Hajime how she feels after the roller coaster of emotions that she has, where she tries to find out who Aiba is to him. And before she can tell him, Aiba interrupts with her new scheme, which is pretty funny, to get Yamaguchi to come in dressed as an alien and attack her so that Hajime has to use his alien powers to defend her. We also get to see that when that doesn't work, of course, she tries it again, and clearly by that point they know who everybody is. But we also see Kase say that Hajime is the most important human to her, which means that Kase might also be less than human, which I think is interesting because she thinks that Hajime is human. Regardless, she tries to confess again, only to be interrupted by Aiba again, with the same scheme. It's not even a new scheme, which is even more funny in my opinion. And the chapter closes with, Aiba following Hajime and Kase following Aiba, attempting to convince Aiba that Hajime is not an alien by showing him photos that will only, of course, prove that he is. So I think this is a really cool way for it to end its Jumpstart run. I think it's pretty nifty. I'm still not 100% sold on the series, but I think this was really good. There wasn't a lot of fan service this chapter, and introducing a third character really changes the dynamic in an interesting way. Even if I'm not a huge fan of the Osana Najimi, the childhood friend character, that clearly has a thing for the main character, Even if I'm not a big fan of that, I still thought this was pretty well done. So. After that, we have Black Clover 159, released from Misfortune. Asta goes to help the priest, while Yuno distracts the elf, and yet again, man, this arc just keeps delivering. Amazing line, as the priest is happy to see the illusion of Asta at the end of his life. He thinks he's dying, he hears Asta's voice, he says, "You're loud as ever," and is just so happy that, for just a moment again, he gets to see Asta as he dies. And it's just an amazing line. And Asta's desire to see the man who raised him live is enough to draw the third sword from his tome, the one that Licht freed in the dungeon. And why this is really cool to me is that I went back and looked, and yes, Licht does drop that sword. And so I'm assuming because Licht had to unlock it basically, I'm assuming as soon as Licht dropped it, the grimoire that he used to own was able to summon it again. Which is really cool. It's very convenient because of what the sword can do, but it's really cool. So that also would mean that since Licht took one of Asta's swords, Asta probably won't have access to that one since it's still in Licht's hands. And there's no reason why you would ever use the tome to pull the sword away from the user, because the swords and the tome belong to the same person originally. So I just think that's really nifty. That's a nice point. It's not just like, oh, Asta suddenly got a power-up, the sword falls, and at some point the tome must have scooped it back up again. We then get to see that Asta uses it to devour the poison, as the elf, seeing that not only is he losing this fight, but also that he can't kill these humans, is beginning to lose it. His magic is completely out of control, it's starting to affect him and the air around him, and there's a couple cool thoughts about this that I have, which is, at least I think they're cool, I can't say definitively that they are, which is it that the elf is so angry that he can't kill the humans that this magic's going out of control, or is it that the human inside is still fighting and trying to get control back, and so the elf, who is now angry and not able to focus, is losing his control? I'm leaning towards the latter myself, but it could very well be the former. Regardless, Asta stabs him with the new sword, which causes the elf marks to leave his body, and Asta notices, as he does so, that the elves look like they want help. There's a couple things we don't know about this either. When Asta stabs them with this new sword, and the elf is ejected from the body, does he go into the sword? Does he go to, like, the afterlife for elves? Or does he just cease to exist? Also, does the stab hurt the person he stabbed? Because we don't see what's up with that guy after the stab. And, if it kills him in the process, is it worth it? Or does it just, stop their control, but the elf's still in there? There's a lot we don't know. But of course, I'm sure we'll find out. We cliffhang with Elf Luck showing up where Magna is. And that'll be a fun moment where Magna, I say fun, it'll probably be rough, where Magna tries to stop Luck, but maybe Magna will just fight him. Maybe sure, whatever, you lost your mind anyway, let's go. I don't know, I like Magna, so we'll find out. I also like Luck, so we'll find out. After that, we have Dr. Stone 60, Angel's Song, Devil's Whisper. We get to see the old crew again as they work together to make a record and record a message. We then get to see a wonderful split panel between the previous generation of Byakuya and his crew working, and the new generation of Senku and his crew working. Then we get the message. Byakuya still clearly believes in Senku. He honestly thinks that Senku will wake up, and he was right. Though, he was right for a different reason. He thought Senku, if anybody would find a way to break out of the stone, it would be Senku. Senku broke out kind of because of luck, but he still kept his sanity, so, it only would have worked for him originally. But, regardless, he still believes in Senku, and they have their final conversation. Byakuya, having said, that he'll always believe in Senku, but not saying it, because he knows that Senku doesn't care about the sappy stuff, then passes on the gift of music. The magic of music through this record. And the effect is immediate. The people in the village, some of them are moved to tears. They're shaking. They've never heard anything like this. As Lillian's voice pours out to them, her thoughts at the time on the loss of music in this new stone world. And it's amazing to me that that little comment that broke me up back then comes back now and affects the others the way it does. And you can see the effect it has on Ruri. She wants to learn this song. She wants to sing like that. But man, it's it's good. It's real good. Senku then uses Byakuya's gift to spur the villagers on even more. Talking about how if they beat Tsukasa and bring back the rest of the stone people, they can rebuild all of the amazing things that humanity has lost. And everybody's down for it. He talks a little bit about video games, and anime, and manga, comics, and movies, and television. Everybody's super hype. We then cut to Senku and Gen. As Senku, if his hesitation to bring these people to war is gone. And Senku, while looking sadly, says that he never had any hesitation to bring them to war. He knew what was going to be asked of, and that they were going to have to do it. We then see Gen come to some kind of realization about sound quality, and we hard cut to night, where Gen has come to Senku with an idea so vile that God himself would condemn them for it. But it could win them the war without a drop of blood. So Senku, of course, is down for it. And oh boy, Senku and Gen look amazing in that panel. I love that final panel. I love that Gen's scar, when he's being goofy, is just like a little opening, and like everything's just fun times, you know? But when Gen gets serious, and he gets like evil, the scar gets all jagged and looks like a wolf's mouth, and I love it. We even get to see like Senku looks tough. Senku looks evil in that final panel, and I love it. Because they're going to do something real dangerous and something real cruel, maybe. But if it can win them the war, then they have to. They don't want all these people to die. After that, we have robots at Laserbeam 59, the destination of the approach. Genro is super focused, laser focused, you might say, and he calls for his trusty 3-iron. He forces himself to relax, takes the shot, which stops the breath away from the hole. Robo and Suzaku both saw it happening in the middle of the shot, that as he took the shot, the exhaustion kicked in, and his knee buckled a little, and it affected his swing. As Genro moves on to the final hole, without waiting to see if Robo's shot makes it or not, because he knows it will, and Suzaku stands up in anticipation, because he wants to go see this final hole with his own eyes. They are building this final hole up, by the way, because the next thing we see is that all the elites are also there to watch this final hole with their own eyes. And man, Genro and Robo have had a really good fight so far, but this final hole, they're both exhausted, they're both pushed to the limit, they've both grown so much as golfers just in the course of this chapter, or the course of this little mini arc, this match. I cannot wait to see how this all winds out. After that, we have Boruto 24, Kawaki. So, I spent a while on the first part of 24, and this chapter, it has some weird movement going on in this first scene. Jigen is sitting in front of Delta. Then when she smashes the table against the wall with a kick because she's tired of waiting, she's at the end of the table, sat, and she raises her foot and kicks the table, which sends it flying to the left, and it splits down the middle, which is not where it probably should have split at. But regardless of that, when it does, Jigen is then off to the side, like this. It's really hard to show with my hands. Like, they were sitting like this, and then the next time you see them, it's like this, when that table's smashed. And then, when Jigen summons the new table, we see the old table split in the middle. Behind him Then when Delta leaves, we no longer see the fireplace that's behind her. We just see her walking away. It felt like, and maybe it was on purpose, maybe they're distorting the space around them, but it almost felt like there was no internal consistency as to where people were in that room. And it just felt really, really weird. Like, I couldn't really find a lot of other people talking about it, so maybe it was just me. But man, it messed with my head. And like I said, I spent probably 20 minutes just poring over that first scene, just figuring out, okay, so if this is where the table's at, and this is where both of them are at, and then she kicks the table from here, and it flies behind him and breaks, and then he's over here because the way the angle's at, then he summons a new table. Like, I spent far too long figuring out the spatial structure of this room that we will probably never see again. Also, there's a lot of doors in that room. It really... And look, there's not even doors on there, it's just doorways, but it just really pulled me out of it. That the spatial awareness in that room was so dodgy. Regardless, we'll move on with the chapter. Jigen seems interesting enough, for not knowing anything about this kid that we saw, other than that his mark throbs like Boruto's. We sure get a flashback for his past real quickly. We find out that he was adopted by Jigen, and he had a terrible dad, and his name is Kawaki. Shouldn't this happen, like, next chapter, or the chapter after? Like, shouldn't we find out his backstory later? It just seems a little weird to get his backstory before we actually get, like, a real spoken line from him. Regardless, we know it now, so that's interesting, and yeah, there's obviously more to it. But, he does the stereotypical freak out, because he doesn't know who these people are, which DBZ creators around him. And then we get to see Kashin Koji, and Delta are watching, and Delta talks about how she brought an outer with her, Garo. And then, of course, this outer Garo gives himself away and attacks, even though he hasn't been ordered to do so. We get to see this moment of Kawaki going like, hey, why do Konoha Shinobi want me? And Konohamaru is like, we gotta debrief you, we gotta interrogate you, we gotta figure out what's going on. And that makes sense. But I feel like they could have been a little bit more like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we don't want to fight you because we don't know who you are. And you took down all those dolls that like were really tough with ease. And we just got done with a real big fight, so we'd actually really not like another one right now. Maybe we could talk about this for a second. It just felt a little weird that they immediately were going to fight. We then get to see Boruto, like, shows off his mark, because he's like, hey, no, wait, hold on! Because Boruto's like, we probably shouldn't fight this guy right now. And Kawaki calls it karma and seems shocked that Boruto has one. And then we see Garo show up and give up his surprise round. Like, he has the drop on everybody. And he misses on purpose to get their attention, just so he can look menacing. Like, you already know, you make the comment here, Garo, that Kawaki's the one who took your chin, and you're wearing, like, this mask. Just shoot him. Don't give away your position, just shoot him. And then once he knows you're there because you shot him a bunch, then he can fight you and he'll be weakened. Or take out the others so they don't help. Don't just miss on purpose. What are you doing? He also talks about how he's an outer and how Kawaki's the vessel and like gives up all this information for no reason. And it's like, why would this organization send Garo here? Like, why would Delta even bring him? Why is Kashin Koji letting him talk when Kashin Koji would not let Ao talk and crushed him with a giant toad summon the instant Ao began to talk? Why is he letting Garo talk when we haven't seen any friendship between him and Garo, but we saw friendship between him and Ao, and he killed Ao anyway? It doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent with what we've seen from these characters already. And, like, maybe they just want to see how Kawaki fights. By the way, he can make arm blades. They're pretty sick, actually. Maybe they just want to see how Kawaki fights. But in that case, like, you're still letting him give out all these secrets. I don't know. It really bothered me that Ao got straight up murked by his friend, Kashin Koji, because he was talking too much to Boruto, and yet here Garo is just spouting it off. And maybe it's because Koji intends to kill all of them this time? Because he let them go? I don't know. Regardless, we'll go into the lightning round. Blue Exorcist 100, SSCOO 40. This was a fine chapter. I thought it was, I'll give it a 1 thumb up. I thought it was pretty good. There wasn't anything that really took me out of it. I'm not super sold on Yuri yet, but I thought Shiro was pretty cool. Again, I think there were some spots where some inking could have been done, but I understand why they did it that way, and I think it's fine. One Piece 906 Sacred Marijoa. Really solid chapter. Really liked it. Loved everything to go with seeing Dalton again. The slavery going on that we knew was going to be happening with the Celestial Dragons. And that giant straw hat. Food Wars 265. Soma and Megumi's Hot Spring Case Files. 501. The Darkness Behind the Steam. This is a fine chapter. Nothing great really happened, but set me back down in my chair and made me go, wow, hey, food exists again in this series. We Never Learned. Also, that final panel was really cool. We Never Learned 65. X-Descends Like Wildfire at the festival's beginning. Gonna give it another 1 thumb up. I thought this was a really fun chapter. Getting to see Karisu's stuff about her school festival and how she didn't get to go to them was cool. And seeing Eureka just dive into action was nice. My Hero Academia 185. Wing Hero Hawks. 1 thumb up. Just watch me. Nothing else needs to be said. That was amazing. Hawks is pretty cool too. Promise Neverland 89. Convening. 2 thumbs up. Leuvis going on a rampage while being hype, while being stunned. Absolutely amazing. Kimi wa Shinryakuseyo 3. Childhood friend. 1 thumb up. Thought it was fine. Thought it did its job very well. And I like Kase. She was pretty cool. Also leads into maybe she's an alien too. Black Clover 159. Released from Misfortune. 1 thumb up again. Thought that was an amazing line. Thought the sword was really cool. Thought the cliffhanger was not that great. But hey, it was still a really fun chapter. And that really good line from the priest. Dr. Stone 60, Angel's Song, Devil's Whisper. 2 thumbs up. Thought this was a really solid chapter. Loved seeing Gin and Senku at the end there. Looked really cool. Robot Laserbeam 59, The Destination of the Approach. 1 thumb up. Very hype for the next series of chapters. Really liked this little mini arc. Looking forward to more. Boruto 24, Kawaki. I'm going to give this one a thumbs down. I honestly am. It bothers me so much that Garo is just allowed to spat out all this information when Ao was killed so that he wouldn't. And Kashin Koji's right there. Come on, man. Have some standards, Koji. Regardless, that does it for this week. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode of the Weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown. I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum the Jump has to offer.